It's the most expensive graphics card in the world probably. But anyways, like I would not, hadn't I sold it then in 2011, I would not have held it through like 10x, 100x. No way would I have assumed to see like 100,000 euros worth of Bitcoin. And had somebody told this to me like 15 years ago, like, yeah, you're crazy. Yeah, the next phase of adoption, all these currencies currently being printed to worthlessness, sooner or later people will wake up. My generation, like just yesterday, Germany would announce, oh, maybe you have to work until you're 73.
Right.
Like this entire pension system is the Ponzi scheme, like that they have been telling us Bitcoin is. Like the pension system in Germany is literally, it's a Ponzi scheme that should have collapsed, but it's heavily subsidized by tax money. The sad thing is all these things never resolve themselves quietly. It always happens in a big bang. I don't want to sound like a doomsayer or like a prophet, but I fear for like some near-term thing that will be cataclysmic. In the long term, Bitcoin will, but there might be some, not so great things in between.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bitcoin for Professionals. Our guest today is Chris, known as CoinJoin Chris. Hello, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
A pleasure. Chris, for those who don't know you, can you please maybe introduce yourself and walk us through your journey, your career before you discovered Bitcoin?
So I was a poor student when I was first put in touch with Bitcoin through a friend. Like I studied mechanical engineering, as many Germans do, and that was my profession for quite some time. I was a research associate, and I worked in material sciences, and Bitcoin grew and became bigger and turned from something that was a speculative asset where I gambled or tried to outperform stock into something that changed my life. And 5 years ago, my business partner Ayhan and I, we sit together and think what can we do to contribute to Bitcoin. We are too dumb to write a line of code, but I'm a metallurgist. He's a civil engineer, and then we came up with a Seedor, a steel wallet where you can store your private keys. I have a small capsule here. It started out as a passion project, and I thought I put my metallurgical abilities and my design abilities to put like the best of every steel wallet that I've seen exist into one and put it out there. And a few years later now, we are the biggest brand in the German, Swiss, Austrian market and retail worldwide. And every time I see an order come in, I'm happy because I think the more people take Bitcoin off an exchange, the closer we get to the real price of Bitcoin. And I've sent kits out to like Malaysia and to Hawaii, and it's an amazing journey so far.
Nice. So, what year was that approximately when you launched Seedor?
So Seedor, like we started developing it and getting all the trademarks and stuff in 2020, and we launched in 2021. Of course,
Nice.
21, and now 2025 we're here. That's basically allows me to go to all these conferences and have it as business expense. I don't have to pay for a conference ticket myself anymore. I can book it on a company. It's nice. So that's my tip to people who want to go to more Bitcoin conferences. Just start a business and you can expense it.
That's a great advice, and I'm going to ask you later on about conferences in general and your opinions and your advice maybe to people who have not been. So you said you discovered Bitcoin when you were kind of a half broke student slash mechanical engineer.
Most students live day to day. I was always working. Like I've had jobs like working since I'm like 15 years old. Like I've worked at a gas station. I worked like catering. I did everything. And during like university, I worked as a student researcher too. But I always wanted to invest money. And back then, like there was not that much education out there, like, and buying stock was not as easy as it is today, like with these apps. But yeah, one day, a fellow co-ed of mine, like an electrical engineer, like he invited me over to his place and he talked about Bitcoin. It was really early on, and then he gave me a bunch of Bitcoin, and I did not get it. I received those Bitcoin for free, and I thought, why would I ever need this? We have PayPal, we can like send money instantly. I didn't know what money was. I didn't know that PayPal is not like settling. Nobody like really had any sort of education out there. And then when Bitcoin reached like euro parity, like I sold everything. Still, there's this, I've told the story before, like I bought a graphics card for a little less than 1,500 Bitcoin. And to this day, I own, I own this graphics card. It's, the most expensive graphics card in the world, probably. But anyways, like I would not, hadn't I sold it then in 2011, I would not have held it through like 10x, 100x. No way would I have assumed to see like 100,000 euros worth of Bitcoin. Like just yesterday, we had like the first time, I think, Swiss francs, 100,000 Swiss francs per Bitcoin, like the first time this happened. And had somebody told this to me like 15 years ago, like, yeah, you're crazy.
What you're saying reminds me a lot of many people like you who were exposed very early on and had access to, let's remember the pizza story, 10,000 Bitcoin for two pizzas. In your case, 1,500 Bitcoin for a graphics card. People always tell early adopters that they were lucky because now Bitcoin is at 126. And it goes to show how difficult it is to, first of all, take it seriously when the price is very low, and I suppose to hold, to keep holding through the bear market. So anyone who was exposed early on and still, was able to hold till now, I tip my hat. They were not lucky. I think they had conviction.
Yes, I mean, there is this thing. I know a few people who have still a lot of Bitcoin, like, and there's either this category of somebody who was already very wealthy and did not have to like sell this or was not tempted to sell this, or people that lost access or thought they had lost access and then regained it later after the like 10x, 1,000x or something.
Wow.
But that is the beautiful thing about Bitcoin, like you have to use it, and it is the sole purpose of Bitcoin is to make your life better. And it doesn't make any sense to like your last shirt does not have a pocket for a wallet. Like you have to just sell it and use it, and I don't regret it. Like sometimes I wake up and think, oh, had I not done this, but I know for a fact I would not have held 1,500 Bitcoin. Like
You would have lost it,
like this
maybe.
was,
Yeah.
I think, 700 euros or something that I paid for the graphics card. Like I would have sold later for like, I don't know, 2,000 euros or something. And now I still spend Bitcoin and I try to buy as much as I still can.
Well, and that makes for a great story. Like I don't know many people who can say that I bought something for 1,500 Bitcoin. So that's still pretty cool. So since then, obviously, can you maybe tell us how it clicked for you? Like how did it become something that you took seriously, that you would not maybe sell a big amount for, although you do say that you like spending Bitcoin, and it's something that I've been hearing a lot, people encouraging Bitcoin is to be spent, replaced, but also you have to transact and not just buy and hold. Can you maybe explain how you started to get more serious about it?
So first, let me say, like, nobody should tell you what to do with your Bitcoin. Like, the only person, Bitcoin makes you sovereign. You decide what you do. If you want to keep it, like Smaug the Dragon, like Michael Saylor, and never spend it, that's a perfectly valid use case because Bitcoin is savings technology. Like, it's currently monetizing. It's like growing tremendously in price. And if you spend it like 2 years ago, like you might regret it like in the future. But I see Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, and it will eventually go there all by itself. But in order to make this like a fluid transition, like we need to build all this technology to use Bitcoin now. And if nobody would spend it, like nobody would build BTC Pay server, nobody like have all these possibilities to do other things than just saving it and having a number in a hardware signing device, then that I think would be a shortcoming of Satoshi's vision, like not the shitcoin, but Satoshi's like peer-to-peer cash system. That is where I want to see it. And every time I have the option to pay in Bitcoin, I will pay in Bitcoin. spend and replace is what I live by. And luckily, where I live, taxation wise, it is pretty easy to do that.
Nice. Um, So you said that you are, since then, you've been involved in multiple projects in the Bitcoin world. Can you maybe tell us a quick overview about a few and what problems you aim to solve through these endeavors?
Yeah, so recently I was asked the same question, and then I realized, oh, there's a red line going through all these companies. So I run satskeeper.com, where we do consulting and we set up multi-sig wallets with time decaying and time expanding properties for businesses, for high net worth individuals, and of course for people who think about inheritance of Bitcoin. And with Cedar, I do Bitcoin self-custody solutions where you can have your private key safe. With Zscaler, I make sure that your heirs can access your Bitcoin in a trustless way, where you only have to wait a certain period. And if the person whose Bitcoin you're bequeathed is inactive, you suddenly on the Bitcoin blockchain through the magic of Miniscript receive those Bitcoin. And then the third thing is Bitsurance, the company that currently takes 90% of my time, where we insure Bitcoin. I see there's 4 million Bitcoin left forever. So of course, at that time when people lost Bitcoin of these quantities, it was of course worth less, and we didn't have such convenient technologies like hardware signing devices. Like today, these are much, much easier than back then when you had JBox and you had to update your wallet, and the backups were crucial. And nowadays it's much easier, but I try with all these companies make it easier to self-custody Bitcoin and make it more secure. And again, with insurance, that is a new thing. I saw a massive gap in coverage. And it just made sense to me. This is a nascent technology. We have capital. Regulation picks up now. Why is there no insurance to hedge risk? And why is nobody doing that? And that's what we do with insurance nowadays. And yeah.
You cover lots of grounds, huh? You mentioned also more the technical side of Miniscript for bequeathing Bitcoin to heirs. How much of a technical person, let's say, are you now, and how much did you have to learn in order to be able to build all these projects?
So in Bitcoin, I think the rabbit hole is really deep, and there does not go a day by where I do not learn something new. Miniscript is a fascinating technology. Blockstream, Peter Will, they built that, and now a few wallets started to implement it. We have it in Bitcoin Core, and then Liana and Bitcoin Keeper, and then now Trident Vault with my dear competitor Anchorwatch. They have a great setup there, and Nunchuck is now also using that. I'm not a technical person in the sense that I'm a developer, but I'm an inquisitive, very curious mind, and I have a lot of free time to learn these things. I was mainly, every time I go down a rabbit, I look for solutions for myself. And I was thinking, hey, Bitcoin, if my family, they have to listen to me talk about Bitcoin every day, and they're sick of it. Yet I am not 100% convinced that they could recover my Bitcoin if I died tomorrow. And how do we solve this? There's collaborative custody solutions. There's trust. You can put it in a bank. You can put it on an exchange, and then it's rather easy to present a death certificate, and then you will get my Bitcoin. But that is antithetical to Bitcoin itself. Bitcoin does not or should not have a counterparty risk. And all these aforementioned things, they have this counterparty risk because there's always this trust assumption. And then now we have Miniscript. We have these time locks that we can use, and you can build a fantastic wallet. I'm a big champion of a Liana wallet. It's open source, it's free. Everybody can look at it, and you can test it with Signet and Testnet if you're not sure. And you just set up a wallet, and you can set up recovery keys or inheritance keys. And if you're inactive for a set amount of time, those become active. If you're still active, meaning you're still alive, those are not active. And that is simply it's beautiful. It solves a very crucial problem, and more people should check it out.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this is native to the actual Bitcoin code. It's nothing built on top of
Exactly.
Bitcoin.
Yeah,
which
so
means less
in Bitcoin,
vulnerabilities.
exactly, we have this very primitive scripting language in Bitcoin. It's Forth-like. It means it's like there are primitives in Bitcoin that we can use, but they're severely, like, on purpose hampered, so that there is nobody that can create a transaction that is so complex that will, DDoS your node. And of this subset of Bitcoin script commands, very smart people used a smaller subset, Miniscript, and figured out a way to use these commands that we use, for instance, already in Lightning channels, and rearrange them in a way, in a sandbox, so to speak, where you cannot shoot yourself in the foot. Because with this script language, you can build crazy wallets. We have not even scratched the surface, but there might be like some edge case if you have this and suddenly you shoot yourself in the foot and money is gone. And with Miniscript, there is this, let's say, a safe sandbox where you can build these things. And with Liana Bitcoin, they are now at version 13. Version 14 is soon to be released. It is a fully fleshed out wallet, and the only person or the only thing that you have to trust is the Bitcoin blockchain, because that is enforcing this time lock. You can set it to Unix time or a block height. Let's say after 15 months of my inactivity, all the inheritance keys become active. And you can't, like, there's no amount of hash rate that you can put up to increase the block speed. Like, Bitcoin is such a decentralized, secure network nowadays that is basically you're on the main chain now, and there's no party, no business between you.
That's fascinating, and like I'm still, I say I've lived in Canada. When I discovered Bitcoin, I was living in Canada. I'm a Lebanese citizen. So I was watching what was happening in Lebanon, the hyperinflation, the capital controls, while I was safe in a country where whatever money I had in the bank, I could withdraw. All this to say that I see the store of value of Bitcoin. I also understand the unit of account, how it protects you from capital controls. But the more technical side, I think, is where I'm at now. So I'm just discovering Miniscript and all of these, things that you have mentioned. So the rabbit hole is still pretty darn deep for me, especially on the technical side. And I recently learned, I think that, say, if you mine a block and you have actually won the block, I think there's a number of
Yeah, you have to
blocks that you
wait
have to
100
wait.
blocks before you can spend it. Yeah,
which
I mean,
I had no idea. I had no idea of that.
yeah, I mean, mining is another very deep, very interesting rabbit hole, and there's also a lot of things that are happening right now with Stratum V2 and Datum, and like we used to be all miners running a Bitcoin node, and then these things split, like something that Satoshi did not foresaw. And now we're trying to make like hashers currently in a pool miners again by having them create the block template themselves and have a more decentralized approach to this. And the thing is, like, with this kind of software, because software can take all this complexity and abstract it away into something very easy. With Liana, you don't have to understand Miniscript, you can just use it. Of course, I always have to like trust a dev that he's like doing the right thing. But if it's open source software and there's a lot of eyes on there, all these tools are being built and they're becoming easier and easier.
Can you share one or two things that you are most excited about in the near future, maybe short to medium term?
So near future and Bitcoin, I think is wrong. Like we think for more than a few cycles. I would like to see another soft fork where we have something like covenants, Bitcoin covenants. Like there are certain proposals from opctv to template hash to tx hash. Something like this, but I don't want to rush anything. I don't want to have anything like really, let's move slow and steady because it's like a $2 trillion asset. A lot of money is at stake. Let's not make more problems than we need. But that is to me very exciting because that would solve a lot of UX problems. Currently, you see a lot of people using Bitcoin in a custodial fashion, meaning they have their Bitcoin on Coinbase, or if they use Lightning, they use a wallet of Satoshi or Blink. They're great wallets, but there's this element of trust. Yeah, like you're not using Bitcoin in a proper way unless you have the private key. And with Lightning, you have this great network built on top of a decentralized network. There's an amazing achievement, Lightning, and you have unilateral exit if you have a proper self-custodial Lightning wallet. And a lot of people don't use this because it's still a little bit difficult, and also it's a little bit pricey. If you use something like Phoenix makes it easy, but it's like you pay a lot of transaction fees, even if it's on Lightning. And with governance, we could improve that. We could make self-custodial Lightning as frictionless, as easy as custodial Lightning. And we could improve cold storage. Like, I make a living selling steel wallets. If you have something like a covenant, I'm arguing against myself, my business. Like, you not necessarily need like a steel wallet anymore. You can have something like a vault where you put your Bitcoin in, figuratively, and then you can have something like velocity, spending conditions that you can only spend so much per day. Or you can define whitelisted addresses that you can only spend from your vault to this address. This might be your hot wallet on exchange or on your phone. And if an attacker finds your seed and he tries to spend to a different address, you can have a punished transaction and have something called reactive security. And these things, these excite me, and I see this as like a major achievement if we manage to fork something like this in, because then I believe a lot more people will take their Bitcoin from Coinbase, and a lot more people will transact natively on the first layer. And that immediately prices out all of the spam, the discussion that we're currently having. Like, if more people use Bitcoin, like there's 2 point some million Bitcoin on Coinbase. Like, most of it is like BlackRock and Michael Saylor, of course, but like if everybody just takes it down and transacts it, like, this problem will solve itself. So that is what I advocate for.
That's very interesting, and yeah, I can understand how the idea of self-custody can be jarring to some people, because let's say one mistake and it's gone, one virus and it's gone, whatever. So I love what you're saying about these governance and how you're adding layers of protection between your cold storage wallet and any vector of attack. I want to ask you, Chris, you're German, you live in Luxembourg, very stable countries with very stable banking system, yet you seem very adamant about Bitcoin and self-custody, no third party. I'm curious, where does this come from? Like, you're not, let's say, Lebanese or Greek or from Venezuela. You haven't really you haven't felt the pain yourself from
That
a
is true.
financial
Like,
collapse.
I'm very, very privileged in that regard. Like, I didn't see a war. I didn't see monetary debasement. I mean, I've seen, like, in a mediocre way, but like, as a student of history, like the Weimar Republic, we've seen
Right.
hyperinflation in this very country, and all these things led to even worse things. And yeah, in my studies of Bitcoin, and just observing the world that we are currently living in, if you go deep, deep down in almost any topic, sooner or later you'll find the very same culprit, and it's always the corrupted money that we're currently using, this fiat money. And I truly believe that if we have the sound money, and now we have, for the first time ever, we have this technology, I truly believe if everybody uses Bitcoin, like, all the other problems will solve themselves. Because then it becomes like only price signals. There's nobody, no authority. We have a public monetary system that anybody can participate. Nobody can be censored. Nobody can, exact their will on to somebody. And I mean, Germany, I mean, I'm not saying we are like rushing in the wrong direction, but I'm not sure we're going in the right direction. And currently, I agree. Germany, we live in affluence, and Bitcoin is probably day to day more something for people that live in hyperinflation, like in Argentina or like Libya, like all these countries. But
But
everybody
I
wishes
love
they had.
that. I had totally forgotten about the Weimar Republic, and it's indeed, it seems like a long time ago, but not really, like 100 years ago, and history tends to repeat. So that's pretty cool.
History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, and it's rhyming quite a lot recently.
Agree. Tell me something, Chris, outside of the outside of your projects, you're, again, we said, very knee deep into the Bitcoin ecosystem. Outside of the Bitcoin Twitter bubble, where do you see global Bitcoin adoption today? How early do you think we are, and how do you see the next phase of adoption unfolding?
Yeah, the next phase of adoption, all these currencies currently being printed to worthlessness. Sooner or later, people will wake up. My generation, like just yesterday, Germany would announce, "Oh, maybe you have to work until you're 73."
Right.
Like this entire pension system is the Ponzi scheme, like that they have been telling us Bitcoin is. Like the pension system in Germany is literally it's a Ponzi scheme that should have collapsed, but it's heavily subsidized by tax money. And yeah, all these things will forge Bitcoiners. Um, and people will soon realize, hey, all this nationalistic thing, like this is bullshit. Like everybody, like I've traveled to every continent besides maybe the South Pole, and everywhere I go, I realize everybody wants the same. They want to find love. They want to provide for their family. We're not very different. And again, Bitcoin, I think, fixes that. And we're moving towards people realizing, hey, these
Mm.
people in charge, they're not sending their best. They have no clue what they're doing. Um, Nobody is honest enough and tells them, hey, by the way, this is unsustainable what we're doing. We can't print our way out of it. And then, like, the sad thing is, all these things never resolve themselves quietly. It always happens in a big bang. I don't know, don't want to sound like a doomsayer or like a prophet, but I fear for like some near term thing that will be cataclysmic. In the long term, Bitcoin will, but there might be some, not so great things in between.
Got it. And maybe to go back to a more happy topic, let's say you go to a lot of Bitcoin conferences. Obviously, a celebration of Bitcoin, friendship, because you tend to, if you go to many conferences, you'll bump into the same people again. Um, like, how do you approach Bitcoin conferences? Obviously, you go to as a professional to showcase your products, but also can you like chill, have a good time, and meet new people?
I mean, that is what I mostly enjoy about these. Of course, I go there to promote my wares, but the exchange that I have, not just with like customers, but like with my peers, like just getting feedback from people that like what I
Mm,
do and figuring out like new things. What is like, which dev is working on what and why do we like should move in this direction? And like, I want to challenge my opinions that I have. And in Bitcoin, I always say you will not find mellow, chill people. They will always be very polarizing, very opinionated. And that is a great way to challenge your own preconceived
mm.
notions. And at Bitcoin conferences, yeah, I try to meet as many people and exchange with as many people. And I've developed great friendships going to these kind of things. And I think this month I do 4 of those.
Nice. Well, that's a lot of traveling and billing to your companies.
Yeah.
um, Back to the technical side more, how important it is today. Obviously, there's been lots of chatter, maybe some want to call it drama, in the last few weeks about knots and core and all these things. For me, like the good thing is that it would probably make more people curious about understanding what is a node, how to run a node, etc. I want to ask you, how important do you think it is for individuals to run a node and maybe even mine on a solo miner, or on, obviously you're not gonna, an individual is not gonna open like a mining facility at home, but just small steps. What's your
Yeah.
view on that?
I mean, with the BitX, there is a chance, and I think like 3 blocks have been found, so you can do that. And I think these the development like with ocean mining and datum and being able from your home to have this small device that costs like 150 euros or something to participate in mining is not just a great educational thing, but like this is how it should have always been, that everybody
Mm,
is mining, everybody's creating block templates. And I think if you want to be a true Bitcoiner, you ought to have a node. That is not to say that running more nodes is better or serves a purpose beyond a certain threshold. But for you personally, you have to have your own nodes in order to verify your transactions. As soon as you do that, you become an economic node. You have to verify transactions. You, of course, can help other nodes bootstrap, but we have so many nodes that is like already like there's enough. Like, but for yourself, you have to have a node. It's an easy way to then have self-custodial Lightning as well on top of that. And then you can, if you have a home miner, you can create your block templates and you can tweak all the knobs that you want, whether you want to have these transactions in your mempool or not. That is a sovereign decision that you can make. That is my take to that. Like the entire discussion right now between knots and core has a little bit degraded, and I think a lot of people say stuff that is not, something I would underwrite. But yeah, do your research, have an informed opinion, and I encourage everybody to run a node, because only then, like, you're sovereign. You're not leaking your XPub to anybody else.
Another questions I wanted to ask you, the last 2 years have been pretty insane in terms of corporate adoption of Bitcoin, and many analysts do say that the new all-time high of this year is very different than the all-time high of 2021. There's no meme coins. Yes, some people are comparing some Bitcoin treasury companies with the altcoin craze, which I find interesting as a concept. But do you see the 4-year Bitcoin cycle and bear market changing because of these institutions that usually have a very long term way of thinking?
Yeah, I mean, this is also like a meme. This cycle is different, but this actually feels different. We have the ETF, we have all these treasury, like strategy companies. I think we will see higher highs and like higher lows, like the base. Like it used to be the laser-eyed ADIQ maxi that was holding the line. Now it
Yeah.
is the pension fund that can't sell quickly. Like that is the boomer API is now like, if we there will be, of course, always like a 30%, 60%, whatever drawback. Maybe not 60, but like it used to be much bigger, and now we're like the volatility is going down. That makes it different, I think. And I agree, some of those treasury companies, they do look like a meme stock. I applaud Michael Saylor for all that he's done, and like he knows. There are a lot of copycats that don't know, and we'll see. And the great thing about it, like, you always have the choice to invest your money in whatever you want, and Bitcoin does not have a service level agreement. Um, I encourage self custody.
So yeah, custody is obviously very important to you, self-custody, and it's at the heart of what you built. Can you see maybe different custody strategies between individuals, businesses, and even nation states?
Yes. So individuals, like, you will have various setups. Like, you will have your phone wallet. There you have some petty change, something similar to what you would have in a purse or a wallet. And that might be, if you're like fancy, could be a child key or something, like a BIP85 child key. And then you have your self-custody single sig, where you do like larger transactions, that is in cold storage on a hardware signer. And then your generational wealth, the money that you want to retire on, that I encourage to have it in a multi-sig. And nowadays, to have this extra redundancy, I encourage like a time decaying or time expanding multi-sig with Liana, because then you have this added thing. With companies, you always have this thing where not a sole person is the owner of the Bitcoin. You will have to have a multi-sig, and they will have to find consensus to like do a transaction. So naturally, you will have a multi-sig. I always say, like, as opposed to gold, where you have to build Fort Knox for these kinds of amounts, like at home you can have a small like safe. With Bitcoin, the trick is the same. Like, whether you do like a, how do you say it, a rope act, if it's like 1 meter above the ground or 100 meters above the ground, it's the same trick. The fear is different, but it's the same trick. And with Bitcoin, you can have, as a pleb, as a humble pleb, you can buy 3 hardware wallets and create a multi-sig, and you will have the exact same security as somebody like Michael Saylor, who has like billions, like even more, because he has his Bitcoin with Coinbase on some MPC bullshit. You can have natively on-chain a multi-sig that is as secure as Fort Knox, and you can build this, and everybody can do this. This is like this great thing. Those are like individuals and companies. And now we're going to like states. Like, I'm not a big proponent of state adoption. Bitcoin is here to take away the power from the state. And I applaud, of course, like the king of Bhutan and like Nayib Bukele for like recognizing and seeing that Bitcoin is something that can empower a country. And I hope to God that they will also use that power to improve the country. But with Bitcoin, and that is the only advantage that gold has, like you can't bring tons and tons of gold in a helicopter once you flee a country. Whereas with Bitcoin,
Mm,
currently it is very easy to rug a population. And if there's like some devious dictator that, you know, decides, hey, our Bitcoin or is it my Bitcoin? Like you can take it on a hardware signer and go away. And that at this point, I argue is like the edge case or the edge argumentation for having covenants, because there you could have like these policies that could be enforced. Whereas with like current setups, there's always risk of collusion in a state, and gold you can't really take out of the country. Whereas, you know, Bitcoin, it's a key feature that you're mobile. So that is my tinfoil
that's
take.
a very good point, because we always praise how Bitcoin makes it easy for people to flee, let's say, a conflict zone. We even had a developer who escaped from Syria with his seed phrase in his head. But I never thought of a dictator making it easy for a dictator also to leave with, you know, his country's riches. That's pretty insane. Thank you for the perspective. Um, you know, you always seem to speak with a smile on your face. Your tweets are always very funny. There's lots of humor is important to you, clearly.
Yeah.
What role do you think memes play in Bitcoin adoption?
They are very important. So yeah, I try. Maybe it's because I'm German. I try to overcompensate, because I don't think we're generally known to be a funny people. But yeah, memes, as you say, if they are good and if they go viral, you reach many more people than you do with a paid ad or something that is like not authentic or not funny. And
Mm.
I don't know, my education in memes is like from my time on Reddit, where it was important to be original, where it was important to create your own memes, and it is a pet passion of mine. And I always say this is my ikigai. Like I'm decent at it. I basically get paid for it, because that is the advertisements that they run for Cedar. Just make memes and people enjoy it. Like there's this infotainment component. Like you can have an educational meme, or maybe it's as good like that it breaches the barrier of the Bitcoin bubble and goes out into the world, and then people learn about Bitcoin and think this is curious. Like what is this about? And yeah, there's this virality aspect that is unmatched.
I think in very different ways. You have the ECB and memes. Both are very good marketing components for Bitcoin in different ways. But I wanna ask you about the German. You said that you're not known to be funny. Is it true, or is it just because we don't understand you that we cannot really laugh at your jokes?
I think German people are very funny. I think I have a weird theory about the way the German language is constructed. Whereas in English, you can have the punchline of a joke at the very end of a sentence. The German language does not allow for that. You have to quickly add some vocabulary after the punchline, which, you know, and brevity is wit. That makes it a little bit more
Mm.
difficult. But there are a ton of funny German people, as there are in every nation. And yeah, I'm championing German humor.
I'll take your word on this one. So you mentioned initially that you talk a lot about Bitcoin to your family. Obviously, that's not a surprise. We all do. Um, I'm curious, like, what's their level of understanding, maybe of support, within your friends group, let's say, how is Bitcoin adoption or Bitcoin understanding evolving?
So yeah, the family like used to belittle it. Nowadays they're happy. They got like a lot of gifts in Bitcoin, and I hope yeah, like everybody that creates kids in my vicinity, they don't get any other gifts these days. Like here is your fair share of Bitcoin, and in 18 years, I'm either the crazy uncle or the best uncle you've ever had. Yeah, my friends are exclusively Bitcoiner, except for one person, I think, which is a funny story. Like I came back from Amsterdam from the Amsterdam Bitcoin conference one day, and usually I have a big car. Like I don't want to drive like empty for long distances, and there's these ride sharing apps, and I had an offer to go there, and I had like two students. One went to Eindhoven airport, the other to like Maastricht, and then like I drove to the conference. On my way back, I didn't have anybody to share the ride with me, and suddenly like I'm near Venlo, a city, and I get a message, hey, my train was canceled, which is a very usual thing in Germany. Like we are known to have punctual trains, with like trains are never punctual in Germany. And there was a
Mhm.
guy that missed his train, and then we had this car ride home, and we talked for hours first about like Eastern European movies, because I'm like into movies too. And then learned, oh, he's from Moldova and he studied in Germany, and he's like a diehard Keynesian economist, and he's paid for this education, and he's really, and it was the best conversation I've ever had, because like there's no car conversation that does not immediately turn to like eventually turn to Bitcoin. Like you drive with somebody for like 2 hours, and like, oh, gas is getting expensive and this is happening, and then we talk about Bitcoin. And with him, this conversation started to ease in, and I saw my ideas and my understanding of how like the central bank system works. Like my education was from like podcasts. Like I'm not an economist, and it was really eye-opening for him to challenge on those ideas and gave me better understanding. And we argued and argued, and after this one car ride, we became friends. And to this day, we at least once a month meet for like board games and play Settlers of Catan. And he begrudgingly took my gift of Bitcoin a couple of years back. He's still opposing to the idea. He still cannot wrap his mind around how a deflationary currency could work. But yeah, that is the one person. Once I orange pill him, I will let everybody know, because that is a top signal. Like then, once he breaks, it's the ultimate top signal.
And eventually he will. So you mentioned movies, but beyond Bitcoin, what else are you passionate about? Or if you have time, what else are you? How are you spending your time?
So currently, like I'm a big proponent of Vexl. It is a app that is developed by Satoshi Labs, the guys that invented the hardware signing device, the Trezor. And it is a peer-to-peer app. It's a non-profit open source app that you can have on your phone, and there you can buy and sell Bitcoin, or buy and sell goods and services for Bitcoin. They don't take a cut. It's just like to connect you. Like I used to buy Bitcoin on Local Bitcoins, which was a great platform, peer-to-peer, but there's always, how do you have this element of trust? Like you have to be able to trust a person that you don't know, that if you send them money, they will send you Bitcoin, or vice versa. Local Bitcoins later tried to solve this with like an escrow system, where you first, like there's this platform in between, they would also take a cut. But that platform was shut down like I think 2023 or so. And since then, everybody buys Bitcoin generally on an exchange. And on an exchange, you have to fully ID yourself. And sooner or later, this idea might, even like Coinbase and Binance, they all like had leaks. And Satoshi said it's a peer-to-peer cash system, and why do we not have like a proper peer-to-peer network? And with Vexl, this element of trust that you need to have in order to like trade with somebody is solved with a social graph. It's like a very cleverly designed app where you locally encrypt your phone book, because that is the oldest social graph that we have. Like the people that are in my phone book are people that I know. And then you create an offer, or you see an offer, and then you see degrees of separation between your encrypted phone book and that encrypted phone book. And then you see, okay, this person I don't know directly, but I know a guy that knows this guy. And then you can ask this guy that you share in common, hey, do you trust this person? And then if he says, yes, I trust this guy, then likely you will have a good deal. If the person says, oh no, I have this person in my phone book, but that is my drug dealer, don't go to that guy, then you know. And because this is how markets have always worked, like there's this reputation system and this social graph
Right.
system. That was the missing link to have a peer-to-peer thing working. And so, yeah, I try to champion it everywhere. Like in Czech Republic, you can't buy Bitcoin other than like on Vexl. Like nobody's buying it on an exchange. Like you can find
Wow.
in Prague right now, you find somebody who either buys or sells Bitcoin, and you can meet in a public place. And with Lightning, we have this instant settlement. So there's no more like, I have to wait 6 confirmations or whatever. And yeah, that is what I'm currently very passionate about, because I truly believe like in 10 years, there won't be that many exchanges. Like you will have to work for those Bitcoin, because we will not produce that many more, and people might not sell them, and like the ETF will like soak them up. And by that time, it's probably good that we have a functioning peer-to-peer market. And yeah, so check out
I
Vexl.
I I love that. We'll definitely do, and I will include all of the projects that you mentioned in the show notes. I just want to ask you before we end this conversation, if you had one piece of advice to give to any professional or institutions starting to think about Bitcoin right now, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to not focus on the yeah, preserving properties of Bitcoin. Everything decays, so does the balance on your balance sheet in a company. That is why you invest in people, in machines, in products, in something. But that always entails risk. And sometimes in a company, you already have enough risk because you have enough business proposals that you like need to address, and then you have cash on your balance, and that is a melting ice cube, because that is losing so much value every year. And the next best thing is to put it in stock and all these things. Consider Bitcoin. It is definitely the best store of value, and you see more companies adopting it for that very reason. And I would encourage like every business owner that thinks long term, who wants to preserve their company for their heirs, for the next generations, to now set this foundation in the company, because you won't be able to buy it a lot cheaper in like 5 or 10 years. And now a small allocation, like you don't have to do the full Michael Saylor, but like a small allocation for every business will that make that business more like sovereign and sturdy, and it will weather many storms.
Chris, thank you very much for your time, for the good vibes and humor, and also for all the insights that you shared with us today. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure.